Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and this is take two. Tim and I were a couple weeks ago, had a great conversation, and we had so much fun. And then when I went to edit it, there was only 5 minutes of the interview, and I said a curse word and reached out to him. And Tim, I loved your answer. Is as someone who likes to record live shows, you say that has happened more often than you would like to remember.
Oh, yeah. You think
So
you're hitting the record button and you don't, or you accidentally hit the pause button. You just, or one time you flipped it back in the cassette days, which
yeah,
that's all I've used. Somehow flipped it twice. So it didn't, I was at the end when I flipped it, and then I somehow left it on that same side and thought I was recording, and 45 minutes later have nothing.
yeah. So anyway, Tim Julius, welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing really great. Thank you very much, Jesse. And
Good.
I appreciate you having me back.
No, I'm excited. I loved our earlier conversation, and we won't duplicate that, but we'll find our own magic this time. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a happily married man of 41 years, father of two wonderful grown boys, and have two beautiful granddaughters. I'm 63 years young. I've lived in Seattle all of my life, and I still currently am working, and most of that time has been in the restaurant hospitality industry.
Yeah, I love that we talked about this last time. See, told you I'm already doing it.
Yep, that's all good.
About the restaurants. And I think I mentioned I worked for Cisco for a couple of years selling food to restaurants, and it was
Yep.
always an interesting business. So you mentioned you've grown up same city, but talk about your roots. What kind of music was your family listening to as you were younger?
I was fortunate enough to have an older brother. He's 5 years older. I'm the youngest of four boys. And my mother and father seldom listened to the radio or the stereo, record plays, what have you. But it was always my oldest brother set the channel. And so whatever he was listening to, the whole house listened to. And
Yeah.
I never thought about it afterwards. It wasn't until my brothers had moved out of the house, my father's older. Then he would talk about maybe listening to Johnny Cash, or he liked to listen to, of all things, comedy records, Spike Jones and the Wacky Racers. So it wasn't until way later that I understood what he wanted to listen to. But my oldest brother was always listening to more rock and progressive rock. So Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells, Pink Floyd. But he also did like Al Stewart, which I wouldn't necessarily say was rock. And of
No.
course, lots of The Who, Moody Blues, and such. Yeah.
I love the story because it's so often siblings come up as I do this show, and the either a older sibling influences you. So I think that's a really cool story. I think of the Almost Famous film where, the sister goes off to be I think it's an airline stewardess, and she leaves all those albums with the Cameron Crowe figure. So yeah, it's a great influence.
Yeah.
I listened to me some Richard Pryor 8 tracks when I was in high school.
Yeah.
My buddies and I would get in the car and play that over and over again.
My father had three jobs, and one of the jobs was delivering ice. So my older brother, I would give him my song request, and he would burn them, not a burn anymore back then. But
Yeah.
he would put them onto 8-track. And so driving for hours with my dad delivering ice, he'd let me play my 8-tracks. Dazed and Confused from Led Zeppelin was on there. Locomotive Breath from Jethro Tull. Funeral for a Friend. And my dad wouldn't say anything. He'd just let me play my music.
Wow, that's some pretty diverse taste. Let's talk a little bit about finding Bruce. So, can you remember when you first discovered Bruce, and what about him spoke to you?
I know my brother had the Born to Run album, and Born to Run was on the radio a lot. And I didn't really, it was a good song, but it didn't necessarily catch me,
Okay.
so to speak. But then in the summer of '78, when Prove It All Night came on the radio, and the local radio station had it in its rotation. And for some reason, it just captivated me. There was the sound of his voice. There was just the whole tone of the song, the music, and just that one line that you'll hear their voices telling you not to go. They made their choices, and they'll never know what it's like to live and die to prove it all night. But I'm at that time, I'm 16, and I've got to start making my choices of what I'm going to do and so forth. And it just really resonated with me. Like I say, even though Born to Run was there, Darkness on the whole album, but especially Prove It All Night, really just hooked me.
Have you thought about why that song of all the songs spoke to you?
Yeah, especially when you listen to some of the live tapes, it
Yeah.
even resonated more because there's one version where Bruce, in that great introduction that he does of the '78, he says, I used to think that if I went to bed every night and said my prayers, everything would be all right. But I found out you got to prove it all night. And I just really thought, whether you're in your relationship with your wife, you're at work, whatever, you do need to prove it every day. It's like the not resting on your laurels. You need to get up there every day and fight the good fight type of deal.
I had not thought of that. And it's an early version of Magic's I'll Work for Your Love, which is one of my favorite songs. What others will want for free. Yeah.
And
That's nice.
and it isn't just a one-time work. It's not one and done. It's which also then, gosh, now I'm drawing a blank. Promised Land. I get up every morning, go to work each day.
Yeah.
And again, because I saw my father had 3 jobs. So
yeah,
he did 7 days a week, sometimes 2 jobs a day.
yeah.
And that just it all tied together for me.
My wife and I have been married since I think the same time because we were married in '84. So that'd be 41 years.
Yep.
And people will ask, wow, that's a long time. There is a joke in my family, which is probably tells you more about my family than you need to know. My sister says Jesse and Linda met, fell in love, got married, had a kid in that order, which is unusual for our family. And when people ask me, I talk about it's just a lot of work. It's not necessarily hard work, though sometimes it is. Sometimes it's really hard work. And I make the joke after 41 to marry, 39 of them were happy. The other 2 years were when we were fighting, and that were 1 or 2 days at a time, right? Where she would not, I am not her favorite person at that time.
Oh yeah, I think that happens in all relationships.
Yeah. And the other thing, Tim, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that is I say marriage is never 50-50. It's 90-10, 10-90, 60-40, 70-30. And if you're lucky and if you work hard on it, it averages to about 50-50. But at any given time, it's not that way at all. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, resonates with Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind. It doesn't boast, it doesn't keep score. And when you're a lot younger, you hear those words, but they don't necessarily carry the weight, or you don't fully understand.
Yeah.
Or, it's for better or for worse, but I want you to work on it. You versus I don't need to work on anything in my relationship.
Yeah.
I'm perfect. And until you can realize that, no, there's stuff I need to work on. And again, I've never appreciated, there was a joke somebody told me one time, my wife's the head of the I'm the head of the family, but my wife's the neck. Whichever way the neck turns, the head turns.
I never heard that. I love that joke.
Or the happy wife, happy life. And that one even got me more bothered because I'm like, no, I think both need to be happy. Otherwise, one is subjecting themselves totally for the other's happiness, and that's not healthy.
One of the things that we do is we have an adult son too that's currently living with us, and he and I will often joke about LJ's quirkiness, and we'll go, yeah, but that's our girl. And I know him and LJ crucify me with love all the time when I'm not there because
Yeah.
we're
Oh, yeah.
all flawed individuals.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
So I know from one of the things earlier that bootlegs played a big part of your your Springsteen journey. So if you can, let me know how many times you've seen him live. And because as always, I give it the caveat, the amount of times you've seen him live is not a fair barometer of how big of a fan you are. But are you someone who counts? And if so, how many? And talk about bootlegs for a little bit. Let's go off on a little tangent, Tim, and discuss that a little.
So I had started to count a couple of years ago and then dropped out of the count for whatever reason, but I've always wanted to go back and update that count. So having this podcast pushed me to do that. So I'm appreciative of this. So I discovered that it's 117, which I thought I was maybe in the mid 90s. So that was exciting for me to be a triple digit person.
Yeah.
Out of that, I'll say 113 are full shows, and the other 4 were times where he played anywhere from 2 to 5 songs.
Yeah.
Again, counting that Pollock Theater as one of them with the 2 songs. But
Yeah, and I do know we talked about that my son and I were doing an interview for this 10th anniversary. And he said, "Now remind me, Dad, how many times that you've seen him?" I said, 20. Well, wait, 21 because
yeah,
of Born to Run and Thunder Road. And I'm
yeah.
like, yes, darn, I'm counting it.
Oh, heck yeah. If you were in the room and he sang, that works
That,
for me.
there we go.
Yeah.
Check mark. Yes.
Yeah. But when I was, right before The River came out, so somewhere around, I'm not sure how soon in 78 or 79, one of my coworkers, Dana Shedd, nice guy, really was into a lot of different music. And he was into REM way before they were big, Guadalcanal Diary, Azteca Camera, Young Fresh
Mm-hmm.
Fellows, all these bands I'd never, ever heard of, but he was listening to a lot of college rock. But he was also a big Springsteen fan. And he gave me my first Bruce bootleg live in Winterland
Okay.
on album, and it's wow, somebody's captured a live show. So when the River tour in 1980 came through to Seattle, I thought I want to not only do I want to go, I want to record it. So I went and sourced out at the time, which again there wasn't like an internet to research stuff on. So I went to a couple of different electronic stores and found what I thought was going to be the best recorder that I could afford at that time. It was a dual head, golly, 3 inches by 4 inches, long, but about almost an inch and a half thick, heavy, but a dual head recorder. And at the time, I remember it cost about $140. And when you're making $3 to $4 an hour, that was a lot of money. I looked it up for this podcast that nowadays that'd be roughly almost $690 to $700 to buy.
Wow.
When you're 17, 18 to go to your first show. But I really I was hooked on how do you capture that live concert sound, because I'd heard it once and I want to make sure I can capture that. And so I was lucky enough to go to one show before the River tour when Bruce came, and I tested it and tried it so I could get my working feel on it. And at the time, my current wife, my only wife, was my ex-girlfriend. We were dating and then we broke up. So she originally was my plan to take to the River, but instead I ended up taking now she's my sister-in-law, but at the time it was my brother's girlfriend. And
Okay.
so she was kind enough to wear a dress and tape the recorder to her thigh so that we could get it into the show. And
Which, spoilers, is the first of many things where the kindness of your family has helped feed your addiction. Remember that, listeners. This will come up later.
Amen to that. But so she helped get it in. I got it in. And the first, whatever show, I didn't really learn that much, I guess, because then when it came time to record the show, at one point in time, I had accidentally hit the pause button.
Yes.
And I was killing myself because I missed probably 4 or 5 songs. But then I also didn't realize that it would pick me up talking. My favorite part that's really bizarre is because there was a lot of people drinking, the floor gets wet.
Yeah.
But we were general admission about 2/3 of the way back on the floor. So when the slow songs, the ballads came along, you sat down. But when the other 2/3, 3/4 of the show, we weren't the tallest people, you'd stand on the chair. So after the first 1 or 2 times up and down, all of a sudden I felt my pants wet. because your feet are putting all that, picking up the beer and other stuff that people are throwing on the floor. And then I'm standing on the chair, my wet feet are getting the chair wet. And you can hear me turn to my sister-in-law and I say, my mom's going to think I wet my pants because my pants are all wet. And you play back the tape and you're like, you don't need to hear that. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing it. So pretty much up until the internet has come along, any show that I went to in Seattle, Bruce or not, I would try to tape.
I never was that, but I would always, at some point in a concert, I will pull out my iPhone, and unless the artist has specifically, like Jason Isbell, the latest shows, has asked for no photos, no recording. So, and I've seen the ushers come and say, no, put your phone up if someone's trying to take a photo. But unless that is, I always try to get one video of somebody, a song I want to hear. When ELO came, Jeff Lynne, I did Rockaria or Rockaria. It's one of my favorite ELO songs. The I'm With Her ended with Crossing Muddy Waters, which is a John Hyatt song. But the first few times I did this, I'm singing along with Born to Run. Duh. And so I'm getting a video of me singing slightly off key, Baby, we were born to run. And so I had to learn, oh, yeah, if you're going to do this, stay quiet.
Yeah. My wife's kind of learned the same thing. We went to the Born in the USA tour in 84, and we took, at the time, she must have been married, so it'd be a sister-in-law. And the two chatted the whole time and picked it up on the tape. And I'm like, maybe next time, if you just want to visit, you don't have to do it at the concert. And then fast forward to 2014, my son was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were going to go visit him. And we'd already planned the time and the visit and such. And coincidentally, all of a sudden, a couple of weeks after we'd done that, Bruce announced he was going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. So at Aaron's Amphitheater. So
I'm going to stop in the story. Did your wife look at you and, yeah, really? You did not know this was happening?
Everybody in the family.
Yeah, I bet.
And especially because, like you say, my family is patient. So
yeah,
I like to try and get there 4 or 5 hours before the show to try and catch Bruce coming in. And I also like to hang after the show to catch Bruce coming out. My other son, his girlfriend, my son before he was married. So it was 6 of us. And all of us went 5 hours early to humor Dad. They took games to play in the car and sat in their van and played games while I hung out at the gate. And then afterwards, they took off and did something while I hung out at the gate and waited. But during the concert, because my wife wanted to catch up with the 2 soon-to-be daughter-in-laws, chatted the whole time again. And I'm like, we didn't learn, did we?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of I had a college student worked for me years ago. Gosh, I haven't thought of him forever. And he was a really sharp young man. And his father was one of the executives at the company. And they got, hey, we've hired my son for the summer. You roll your eyes, okay. But Derek was incredibly sharp. He would come the next summer and one day of refreshing and he'd be on the phone taking calls, right?
No.
Loved him. And he was dual, like in Spanish major and business, international business, really sharp guy. And he said, but really all I want to do is be a police officer. That's really all I want to do. And his dad would go, that's great. State school. If you're gonna be a thing, can you go to state school instead of this private school I'm paying for?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, if you're gonna catch up, here's money for dinner. And let's not do the concerts.
Or I need to make sure I sit on the opposite end of the aisle or wherever.
Yeah, exactly.
It was an amphitheater. We were spread out in the general admission section on a blanket. And so I moved to one corner and they were in the other corner. And we both laugh about it now. I've got to learn they're there for enjoyment as well as me.
Yeah.
So I've got to dial down my expectations.
That is one of the things I have to remind my lovely bride is that she is she is someone who has gotten used to watching a film on through Netflix or Amazon Prime, and I have to remind her, okay, we're at a concert. There's people around us. Shh.
Yep.
But yeah, that's great. So let's go there. Let's share some stories, adventures of your trying to get Bruce and signatures and adventures of getting there.
Oh boy, yeah. Gee whiz. The signature ones. The Devils and Dust was a great tour to get autographs on because
Okay.
it was a much there's a certain amount of people that only want to see Bruce with the E Street Band and the
Yes.
electricness of it. And just set that up when my wife and I got to go to Wrigley Field for, I'm not sure which tour it was because I'm out of sequence, but Bruce opened with the 78 version of Prove It All Night.
Oh,
and
nice.
and it was really great. And it was right before the song, one of the guys behind me was saying to his buddy, yeah, this place is crowded. He learned from 2005 when he wasn't selling out shows, that we can't be doing that stuff, that type of music anymore. And I'm like, I wanted to turn around and say, dude, you are just so off base. And because
Yeah.
the 2005 tour was awesome based on how he did the songs, the instruments he played, how he
Yeah.
used his voice and so forth. But also it was great because they were small venues to see him in. They curtained off half of the arena to make it a more intimate venue. And gosh, it was just great. But there was numerous times where I was able to wait outside and get autographs. But one of them in Portland, I waited outside and my wife said, I'm tired. I'm going to go back to the car because we were driving back to Seattle at 1 or 2 in the morning. And I'm like, I want to wait around. And she said, how long are you going to wait? I said, I don't know, maybe a half hour. So a half hour goes by and she says, it's a half hour. And I'm like, I know, but he hasn't come out. She's, but you said a half hour. And I said, yeah, I know, but can we do like another half hour? And she's, I'm going to go to the car. And then she goes to the car and then she comes back half hour. She's like, it's been another half hour. I'm like, it hasn't come out. Can I wait a little bit longer? She's, how much longer? And I'm like, okay, we'll go. And this was back in the day of back streets where you could call into the Bruce hotline the next day
Yeah.
and get notes on the show, and or also the magazine was being published. So I can't remember if it was the Bruce hotline or the magazine, but it talked about how he came out after the show, sat on top of the car and signed for the few people that were there. And I realized he'd come out like 10 minutes after I left. It was one of those, just 10 more minutes, but you don't know when he's coming out. And or so there was the, let's see. So up in Seattle, I was able to pass him a song request list, and I wanted him
Okay.
to play two for the road. And then so he played Portland, Seattle, Vancouver. So he didn't play it in Seattle. So Vancouver, I wrote out a different song request because I thought maybe I'll get this one played.
Yeah.
And so he's coming along the line signing autographs. And just right before he gets to me, he says, anybody got a song request? And I said, I do. And I hand him my list. And in my other hand, I've got the CD that I want to get signed. And so he takes it, he signs his name and he hands it back and he goes, song request. And I'm like, I just gave it to you, but you didn't keep it. And I wanted the CD sign, not the song request sign. That's what but I didn't say that to him.
Yeah.
I just was like, okay, hung my head. But in Portland, I'd gotten there early because, again, I like to get there 5 hours early. And I'm in a good spot. I'm like the number 2, number 3 person on the line. But as the day goes along, more people fill up, more people are behind me. And finally, Bruce showed up and he comes over and he starts to sign. But if you've been in that situation, it's like the rush at the front of the pit stage,
Yeah.
where you're sitting down and then there's that surge and everybody comes at you. And that's what happens. All of a sudden I'm pushed up and people's arms are reaching over me to get stuff signed. And I've got my item out to get signed. And Bruce is signing all around, but he's not signing mine. And
Yeah.
he keeps moving down the line. So I jump out of line, go all the way down to the line that, I don't know, 60 people or whatever.
Yeah.
Get to the end of the line and I patiently wait and I come down and he comes down to the end of the line and I'm holding out my thing and he just pauses, tilts his head and it's, didn't I sign for, he said either didn't I, or I already signed for you. And I'm like, no, they reached over me and pushed me out of the way.
Yeah, it was my face, but it wasn't my item.
Yeah, exactly. And he looked at me and it might have only been a second or two, but the way he was looking at me, I'm like, my God, he thinks I'm lying. He doesn't believe me. And that was painful, but
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
it. He only likes to sign one item, but he hesitated. And then it was kind of like he reluctantly signed.
Yeah.
But I was still happy he signed, but I get it. And then, so again, that was Portland. Then Seattle, we were in line. My wife and I got there early, but people pushed and crowded, and this very aggressive person got in front of me, which bothered me. So
Yeah.
I, again, went to the end of the line. And thankfully, this time he didn't stop and challenge me or question me or whatever, but he signed for me. And I was really worried that he's going to recognize me from Portland. He's going to think this guy is truly trying to scam or get 2 instead of 1.
Yeah,
And
thinking, who is this asshole that keeps, I'm a good guy, but you're taking advantage. You're like, no, I would never do that, Bruce.
exactly. Yeah. There were some fun times there getting the autographs. Yeah. But the shows, though, the Devils and Dust tour shows were awesome. This Chicago show that I'd gotten to go to. Oh, by the way, in Vancouver, he actually did play the song Two for the Road. So,
nice.
He must have thought about it from Seattle and then played it the next night. So I took that as a win.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to Chicago in a minute, but Devils and Dust is always a special memory for me. I had seen Bruce at the Rising show for my first show. And I tell this story often. I felt like I'd walked into a movie halfway because I didn't know a lot of the songs, didn't know most of the songs. And I was captivated by it. And so when Devils and Dust came out, I listened to that CD constantly, just on repeat, because it was the first new CD that had come out after I had went from the casual fan to the obsessed fan. And so when he was coming here at a small theater, Grand Prairie, and I asked Linda, do you care if I go by myself? That way it doesn't cost us as much money, but I really want to go see him. Yeah, go. So I'm in the lower level and I am the last row. Behind me is a wall. To my right is an aisle. To my left is a pillar. I have a seat by myself. And someone comes up and says, hey, do you want a better seat? And I'm like, I'm good. Because I'm thinking scalpers, right? Scalpers do that all the time. And then it hit me because I'm not a very bright man. Wait a minute. You're inside the venue. That can't be a scalper. So I stand up and I said, can I still get a better ticket? Oh, yeah, sure. So they hand me a ticket. So I'm at the front. I don't remember. I remember counting at the time, but I don't remember. It was not as good as Daryl Johnston, who was a member of the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl. He was now a Fox announcer. But better than Babe Laufenberg, who was also a Dallas Cowboy and a local. He is currently still the voice, the color commentary for the Dallas Cowboys. Wow. So I was like, I'm not as good as Moose Johnston, better than Babe Laufenberg. And we had the same thing. There were 4 or 5 kids, and I say kids, college kids it looks, and they had been drinking, and you heard the one of the females, it was 2 couples, when's he gonna play Born in USA? He's not playing anything we know. So they end up leaving. But I knew every Devils and Dust song that he did because I'd done my homework, and it was just something special. That intimacy. And yeah, I would have that problem too of someone going, he's not selling these out. Dallas is a tough ticket because he isn't from the Northeast. There is such this hugeness, and Dallas, there's certainly passionate fans, but it isn't a rabid fan base in this Texas and Oklahoma area because it just isn't. It's a different group of fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you for my tangent. Talk about Chicago.
Oh, that's good. And to your point where the girls left at the beginning of that tour, he didn't do it at the end of the tour, but he would start off by coming out and saying, hey, I wrote these songs as a single performer, so I like to have silence. If any of you are going to talk, I'm going to sweep through the audience with a chainsaw. Yeah. I was trying to tell people in a lighthearted way, please, I need silence in order to give you my best. I need you to do this. And I thought that was really cool. So I'm in Chicago, and I'd already seen a couple of shows, and it was just so neat to watch him do the variety of music. So one song, I'm on Fire, he got the banjitar, which is a combination guitar and banjo. And I thought, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then on the song Paradise, he had the piano and then the electric piano, so set up as an L. And he starts off, at least my memory says, he starts off on the electric piano doing Paradise with both hands. Then he slightly shifts and he does the electric piano and the regular piano with both, one in each hand. And then he finally shifts and gets both hands on the piano. It was just so seamless. And to hear him do that, it was just, I'm thinking, my God, this guy's got so much talent, and I'm jealous. And it was just so neat to hear that song and how he played it. It was just so awesome. But then later on in the show, he was doing Land of Hope and Dreams, and I'm not sure, about a third of the way through, and you see a guitar string break, because again, the theaters are so small, you can see it. And then he keeps playing and singing, and then I'm thinking, you see another string break, and I'm like, ooh. And then it looked like a third string broke, and he doesn't lose a beat. He just takes the guitar and off like this, and he keeps singing. He raises it up over his head, and he holds it out a little off to the side behind him while he's still facing the audience. He doesn't turn to, hey, guitar guy Kevin, come over here. He still keeps singing, and while he's singing, Kevin Buell comes out with another guitar, switches it in his hand. Bruce keeps singing, puts it back on, and just starts strumming. And I can't remember if I said this, but when that third string broke and he took it off, he said, "Oh, we're fucked now." And he still kept singing right after that. And then when the guitar came back on, everybody in the theater just rose up, cheered, clapped. And even though he had wanted total silence, everybody just exploded. And it was just neat to see that spontaneous joy eruption. And he finished the song and got just a really great standing ovation for that song. And I thought, boy, this night can't get any better, man. Yeah. But it did, because I'm sitting there rolling tape, and all of a sudden the last song comes on, and it's a song I've never heard before. And I'm all of a sudden giddy, because I'm thinking, I'm getting a brand new Bruce song. I've never heard it. I don't think this must be a world premiere. It was a world premiere, but it wasn't a new Bruce song, because the next day when I called the Bruce hotline, I come to find out it was the Suicide song, Dream Baby Dream. But
oh, wow.
It was neat to hear that for the very first time, the very first show. That Chicago show just stands out. It's just checks all the boxes for uniqueness. So that was a great one.
So when I remember the video came out with the Dream Baby Dream after, I think it was the Australian tour, right? Had that video that Tom Zemini did. And I love that video. I routinely go to it and watch it again when my heart needs to be refreshed, because I think it's as good a video of capturing what it feels like to be at a Bruce show. And so we were driving in my hometown, Lake Charles, Louisiana, and my son told the story when he interviewed me a couple weeks ago. But in case someone hadn't heard it, we were taking turns playing a song. And I said, Bruce has a new song out. And so we played Dream Baby Dream. And my wife, being my wife, that's stupid. The song's it's the same thing over and over again. And so my son says, hold on. Can you play it again, Dad? So we played again. And Linda says, wait a minute, play it again. And by the fourth or fifth time, we're all going, this is beautiful. It's a rosary. It's a mantra. And so it got to be our family, like, before we'd go to watch the Cowboys, we'd be out on the porch laughing, having some beverages. And we're like, okay, let's go watch the Cowboy game. And okay, we got to end with Dream Baby Dream. Yeah. When I had it, when I was going to a job interview, I had Dream Baby Dream on repeat, just going. So it's become our family theme song. So
that's cool.
He's ending. So my first 7 shows, I'd never heard Thunder Road, Tim.
Wow.
First show, 2002, gone all the way, never heard Thunder Road live. So he's at the NCAA tournament. He does a free show here in Dallas, and he ends with Thunder Road with Patty on the side singing background. And I'm like, all's right with the world.
Yeah.
And so he's either doing Thunder Road or Dream Baby Dream to end the show. Never did Dream Baby Dream for me. Every time it was Thunder Road, which I'm not going to complain. I got Thunder Road, but I would have loved to got Dream Baby Dream
Yeah.
live once. So I am so happy you got to hear that. And I believe, and I this may be the story that I want to believe, but I believe I read somewhere that when the guy from Suicide that wrote
Yeah.
it, he asked for the Bruce version to be played at his funeral.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
To me, I like your, I hadn't thought about it before, but yeah, as a mantra, because it's very hypnotic. And my wife, as your wife originally, my wife still says, can you just not play that one? It just doesn't grab her as
Yeah.
other songs do, which is understandable. It's art and everybody's got their
Yeah.
own taste preference. But again, when you think about it, I just want to see a smile. I just want to see, and what's wrong with that? It's just real, it's basic, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But off on a tangent there, your Dallas show, though, you also got the one off opening, Never to Be Played Again, Jump. And
Yes.
my boss at the time was a huge Sammy Hagar Van Halen fan.
Yes.
And I told her, I said, this is the great thing about Bruce. He'll cover anybody. But will Van Halen or Van Hagar, whichever version you like of them, will
Yeah.
they ever cover a Bruce song legitimately? And try and play it. But that's the beauty of Bruce. Think about like when he did Staying Alive. I
Yes.
never was a fan of Staying Alive, but that version, kick ass, man.
Yeah. And in fact, I was there, and as I mentioned, and so I was talking to some young guys who were there they were there because one of their colleges was in the Final Four, and so they had never seen Bruce before. And I said, I think you're going to enjoy it. And so they come out, and it's on video. I thought it was cool. They live streamed the concert, and Kevin's in a ref uniform, and him and Niels do a jump ball. And when they go into jump, I tweeted who had jump on their bracket, on their bingo card, and someone tweeted, yeah, Bruce destroying brackets everywhere
Oh
because of the
yeah,
NCAA tournament. Yeah, I every once in a while joke. I said, Bruce Springsteen doing Van Halen is what you didn't know you needed, but
right.
do. And they do a killer version of that.
I like the fact that he has that sense of history and awareness. So,
Yeah.
like when he's in, when I think when he was playing Berlin or somewhere in Germany, he does a song "When I Leave Berlin," or when he was down in Australia, he did the song "Royals."
Yeah.
He just has that sense of history, and it's just so cool to see him
Yeah.
do that kind of stuff.
It's easy for me to give more work to the E Street Band, but I would love if he did that every show. It's more work, but
Right.
and that would be tough for them to do. But okay, I'm in Texas. Let me do a Willie Nelson song or a now I was in Austin and George Strait came out. And afterwards, people are like, I don't know who this guy is. Is he the mayor of Austin? I'm like, no, he's George Strait. He's one of the biggest country music stars of all time. And so I'm a buzz, like, oh, George Strait is going to join the E Street Band. How fucking great is this going to be? And I'm like, oh man, what's he going to do? All my exes go in Texas. What are they going to do? And he says, Austin, I am thrilled to introduce someone that needs no introduction. Austin, let's give a warm welcome to Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And then
Yeah.
he went back and enjoyed the show. And I'm like, good for you, George.
That would have been a killer pairing.
Yeah. The first time I went to Nashville, the first time I saw Bruce, Don Henley came out and did I Fought the Law with him.
Nice.
And then gosh, I cannot think who it is now, but someone on the Devils and Dust came out and did My Oklahoma Home with him.
Joe Eli.
Yeah,
Joe Ely?
yes, Joe Ely did my Oklahoma home with him. So I was like, oh, that's what he does every time, which he didn't. But when I was
No.
in Nashville for the first show, I just was new. It's Nashville, Tim. Someone's got to show up and sing with him, but he didn't. So,
Yeah.
yes, that's a great show. That's a great idea. Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit. Favorite albums, favorite songs.
Boy, again, the whole Darkness on the Edge of Town,
Yeah.
his favorite album, favorite song. That's a CD I've given to a few people, like one of my bosses who became a really good mentor and friend. I gave him the CD and I've given it to my kids and some other people. I said, if you really want to know me, listen to this CD. And that's the kind of person I either want to be or try to be or am.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then again, Doubles and Dust has just a whole great sound on it. I love the song The Hitter.
Yeah.
Come to the Doormat. That song just, for me, just has so much, my perception, unconditional love in it. You know, don't have to say anything. Just look into my eyes. You'll see me. And speaking of looking in my eyes, you'll see me. It goes right into Tom Joad. And I love that. I love the social activism that he has in his songs, or his covering of Deportee when you want to talk about current immigration policies and the fact that we can't get, for years, immigration done right, but we all want cheap produce, and who's going to pick that cheap produce and so forth.
Yeah, speaking of, and by the way, we're recording this on No King's Day in October, and there was a really good, a guy sent a really, and I wish I could remember, I could probably dig and find it, but explained why the economic reality of undocumented laborers, because certain fruits are, you can't, it's high labor. You can't use a machine to pick them. You have to. And you have to, and it is a necessary. And his idea was there should be some legal way to have people come earn. No one wants to do it who's currently, most Americans don't want to do it. So this is a needed labor force that we should be able to figure out a way to make it legal so that people come do that legally, earn their money, provide us the product. But it's just, it's, won't get too political, but the idea of we want to give health care to illegals is just, it's a lie. It's just totally a lie. Yeah. And you, I would think, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I imagine Louisiana after the hurricanes, and they had to shut down restaurants because they couldn't get labor. Just, do you run into labor issues?
Oh, ever since COVID. Yeah. A lot of people in COVID just never came back into the restaurant business. We laid off every place, furloughed people. And then some of those people found other careers and other jobs and got out of the restaurant business. And then also just due to where I live in this area, we have Boeing just a couple of miles. They're a huge employer, but so is Amazon. And so Amazon in the town just north of us, they opened up a new facility and they were hiring, I think, 600 people. They're coming out of COVID, and maybe I don't want to go back and work washing dishes or dealing with John Q. Public.
Every holiday I've got to work.
I'm going to go work at Amazon. I'm going to be an Amazon delivery driver. And so it has, to me, the labor pool has dwindled, and the quality of the labor pool is also dwindled. So it's a double whammy.
My job before last was a call center, and we did roadside assistance for the RV industry. And we had struggled to get people. We were paying under market, and I made that argument, and HR made that argument, but we couldn't win. But our call center, and 2 doors down, Amazon signed $17 an hour, start immediately. And we were paying like 12 or 13. It's just, ours is, you can't compete.
Yeah, we were behind on starting wages too. We stagnated. The posted wage, starting wage on the job description didn't change for 5 years. The people that had worked for us got cost of livings and merit or raises and so forth, but the starting wage didn't. So
Yeah.
it took almost 10 years for my company to wake up and go, oh, crap, we're now behind.
Yeah.
I like to use the term employer of choice. To me, we had been an employer of choice, and we slipped and lost that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea that sometimes, yeah, it's a struggle. Oh,
Think back
yeah,
for
please.
one more quick story, because
Yeah.
it's the one that really also captivates me, or just has a lot of meaning for me. And I'll preface it with one of the shows on the Devils and Dust tour as a setup. I took the red eye. It's the first time I ever took the red eye to go see a Bruce show, because I tried to keep my costs down. And so I was flying in for the Philadelphia show, and I sleeping off and on in the plane. But as we got closer to Philadelphia and we were coming in for the landing, I looked out the window. It's a nice, beautiful sunrise. It's somewhere around 5:30, maybe 6 in the morning. And the song line pops into my mind, Sleepy Town Ain't Got the Guts to Budge, which is the opening line from the song Iceman. And coincidentally, I delivered ice as one of the 3 jobs my father had was an ice delivery driver. So I'm thinking, oh, that's neat, Iceman. I delivered ice as a child, and I'm looking down at the town of Philadelphia, and there's not a lot of movement going on, but I know that rush hour is going to change all that, but it's a sleepy town. And so when I got to go to the show, it was at the Tower Theater in Upper Darby, and that had some history to it, because I wanted to see a show at the Tower Theater, and I'm here to see it. And midway through the show, the chatty guy next to me is bothering me while I'm trying to tape, because he's talking. But all of a sudden, Bruce says, I'm going to play a song I've never played before. And all of us start clapping. He's, wait a minute, could be a real crappy one, a stinker. You don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, sure, Bruce. And he performs Iceman. And I'm like, wow, how cool is that? It popped into my mind in the morning, just out of the pure blue. And now he's playing it. And this is a neat connection. And so that was kind of a big connection for me. And then fast forward to 2024, we were set to go to see the 2 shows in Stockholm and then the show in Bergen, Norway. The year before, my wife's brother, who's younger than us, had got cancer.
Okay. It's okay.
Always hard.
What I hope I will remember to cut this out.
Appreciate it. I don't know why it's so hard for me.
No, but I put the unedited version up on my Patreon page. But patrons, if you're listening to this, Tim broke down the exact same way the last time he told the story. It is emotional to him, please. And then I am now remembering our discussion, and then I will tell my brother's story. So yes, please. Amen. Go ahead, Tim.
So my wife's younger brother's named Dean, and thank you very much for your graciousness. But he had contracted cancer on the job. He was a career firefighter. And over the years and time, because he started being a fireman in the 1980s, but years later, you realize that there's toxic chemicals when a fire is burning in different buildings, depending on the construction and the makeup of the building and where they're fighting. But even more so was the suits that they wore, the very suits that are meant to protect you. Back then, they didn't realize were also, due to the heat and how they didn't know that they needed to be cleaned a certain way after every fire, those suits were leaching chemicals, toxic chemicals into them. And so the very suit that's designed to protect you ends up being the suit that ends up causing you to die. So that's really sad and ironic. But so he was on hospice for weeks before we were set to fly out. And I said, we don't have to go. And she's, I don't know, let's see. And the longer you're on hospice, you know that it's going to be ending sooner versus the beginning of hospice. You don't know when. And so she's a nurse, so she could see the signs of that it wasn't going to be long. And she'd gone over to, before we left for the trip, to say her goodbyes to him. One of the things she told him before he left was, and he encouraged us to go. You don't need to hang around. Just go ahead and go. And she said, I'll see you in my dreams. So we ended up going to Stockholm. When we got to the airport, I said, are you sure? We don't have to go. We can turn around. She said, no, he wants us to go. Let's go. So we flew to Stockholm, and I do my thing where I'm waiting outside the arena for Bruce to arrive in case he'll stop and give an autograph. And the security guy comes walking out, And I chat with him for a couple of minutes, and I talked to him about how we almost didn't come for the trip because my wife's brother's on hospice. And he's a very nice person. He's chatting with me. It's one of Bruce's security. It's not the venue security. And I tell him about my brother-in-law's story of the thing about this tour. It is about life and death and the afterlife, and so that the shows are cathartic for us. And so even though it's very bittersweet that's happening right now, the music does help with the healing.
Yes.
And he said, oh wow, man, I'm sorry for you. And Bruce drives by, waves, goes in. So we go out, we go to dinner before the show, we get in, we get the seats, and the show opens up with Into the Fire. And I'm thinking, wow, how
yeah.
that there's that connection again. I just shared with Bruce's security guy, my wife's brother's situation as a fireman, and we're getting into the fire. Both my wife and I think teared up and maybe cried.
Oh yeah.
I know I did. I know I did.
And this was a pretty static set list at this time.
Yeah.
So you might go, oh, okay, yeah, just luck of the draw. He threw this in there. But no, that's pretty amazing.
So
I
afterward,
would hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, ran out after the show to try and see if Bruce would stop for an autograph afterwards. He didn't. He drove on by, but the security guy was there. And I called him back and I said, hey, remember, and we spoke this afternoon? He's like, yeah. I said, remember I told you my wife's brother was a fireman and dying of cancer? And he's, yeah. And I'm like, so did you say anything to Bruce? He's like, I don't tell Bruce what to play. I have no influence. I do not. And I'm like, don't you think that was weird? And he cocks his head a little bit and he's like, divine intervention, maybe? And he turned and walked away. And I'm like, okay, either he did tell him and he's very cool and coy, or yeah, divine. Either way, how effing cool is that? And so that was really cool. We've got the second Stockholm show, went over to Bergen. We were at the Bergen show. And when you think about the time difference, 8-9 hours between Bergen and Seattle or Washington, right after the song and the last song, I'll See You in My Dreams, the concert ended. 15 minutes later, my wife got the text that her brother had passed. In my heart, when somebody passes, the first thing isn't you're going to run to the phone and text somebody. But I know the family was important, that they wanted to tell my wife. And so my belief is that he passed during that song. And that was the last thing my wife told him.
I thank you for sharing that. I'm so glad.
Yeah. And yours and my connection is his name's Dean and your brother's Dean.
Yeah, so my brother Dean had been diagnosed with cancer, chain smoker his whole life. Recovering alcoholic, had been sober many years and very active in AA, and really turned his life around and had been a really angry man, and a lot of it's everyone's fault but mine. And toward the end of his life, the past 4 or 5 years, had really gotten his life on track. He was a long distance truck driver, loved being behind the wheel of his truck, and he and I really reconnected in ways that I'm so grateful for. So when he gets cancer, he's trying to do the treatments, and they reach the point where there's nothing we could do. So he's in hospice, and I go see him December of 22, and we spend 2 or 3 hours together, Tim, just talking about nonsense.
Nice.
Science fiction shows we liked, books we read, comics, telling stories about our mom's craziness, the greatness of our sister, our dads, both our dad and our stepdad. And at the end of this time, he says, oh my God, it's late. You've got to drive to Dallas, because he was in Houston. You need to go. And I hugged him, and he said, this may be the last time we see each other. And I wouldn't know. And he says, I hope it isn't, but it might be. He said, I want you to know you were the best big brother I could have. And so he hugs me. and I'm crying, and I get in the car and I listen to I'll See You in My Dreams.
Yeah. A great song.
So, yeah, Dean is in hospice, and February 13th, I get the call he had passed away.
Yeah.
And because of COVID and everything, they weren't allowing anyone to be in the hospital room or even in the waiting room. We're sitting there, and my sister says, go to the concert. Dean would want you to. And so I'm there in Houston. God, if I was the priest, so I was very
Yeah.
happy. But I'll See You in My Dreams. I'm crying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And divine intervention, though, my mother had a stroke and she was confined to a nursing home. She couldn't move her left leg whatsoever or her left arm. And we made the decision, right or wrong, not to tell her youngest son had died. We
Yeah.
just knew that it would hurt her. And I also knew that we just made that decision.
Yeah.
So she was not doing well. And my sister calls me and says, I went and saw mom today. I said, oh, good. How was it? She goes, good. She said Dean visited her. I said,
Mm.
excuse me? She goes, yeah. She said Dean came to the nursing home. He looked better than he'd ever looked forever. And my sister goes, of course he did. He's an angel.
Yeah.
And and mom said that they had the best visit. And she was mad at Rita. And Rita's like, why are you mad? You didn't have my purse. I wanted to give Dean money to buy his lunch. Mom, Dean has money. No, but when your child comes to visit you, you want to give him money. I know. So, was that in her mind as she was passing on?
Yeah.
Or did my brother come visit her
I
and
think,
she died like a week later?
yeah. No, my mom was my mother and father. She seemed to be more aware of or talkative about me because, again, on my trips, my mother, I guess, for lack of a better term, loved to talk.
Yeah.
Dad didn't say much.
Yeah.
But mom would always be, where are you going? When I got back, how was the show, and so forth. And dad would just most of the time listen. Although one time, as my parents got older and I needed to take them shopping, my dad I took him over to the local grocery store, and the people there knew him because that was the place that he'd been shopping at for a while. And he would kind of like one of those Geico embarrassing commercials where he'd go up to people and he's like, this is my number 4 son. He's a big Brucey fan. And people would look at him and I'm like, Dad, they may not know who Brucey is.
Yeah.
But he would introduce him. This is Bruce Springsteen's number 1 fan. So he is aware, but he just doesn't talk about it that much. But a week after my mom had passed, we had postponed the services because it was near the Thanksgiving holidays. And I had a show to go see in Oakland that because of she'd passed and we hadn't had the service yet, I still went to Oakland to go see the show. And I sat down in the arena and the seat next to me was empty. It stayed empty all night. But when the lights went down, I swear my mom was sitting next to me and she's, wow, I've never been to a show, Tim. And I'm like, yeah, and you're here with me now. And so I felt that same thing, kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
After mom passed, then when I would go visit my dad, and then all of a sudden he would start asking me, so how was the show? What show did you go see? He'd never done it when mom was alive. It's like he let her do all the talking, but now that she's passed, he picked that up and would ask me.
Yeah, I wonder if I didn't have a chance to talk to her. She did the talking. It was my turn.
Yeah.
I love that. And it is that they're always with us, right? I remember staying up late. I went to my computer when Sirius XM was replaying the theater there in New York at the Harlem Theater, right?
Yeah, Apollo.
Yeah. And so I'm listening to it on headphones so I don't bother anyone. And when they get to the point, are we missing anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Are we missing anybody? And when he says, if we're here and you're here, they're here,
Amen.
I just, I went, yes. And I think about that every time we have a family gathering. And I think of if my mom or my dad or stepdad or Linda's mom or dad, like every once in a while, Linda's dad was a talk show host. He did a call-in show in Louisiana. And Linda says often, Ray would have just talking your ear off about this podcast. He would have just he would have been so proud for you. Yeah,
Very cool.
absolutely. Anything else we needed to cover, Tim, that we didn't? I think we checked most of the boxes.
Yeah. And if not, hopefully I can be invited back and we can find
Anytime.
some other good stuff to talk
Yes.
about.
But we connected. And why don't you tell the story about you took it upon yourself to do extra credit about the Mary question. So talk about, and by the way, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but this is a benefit from the Born to Run Symposium. We had connected a little bit there and then we followed up. So please tell us a little bit.
So, yeah, it was neat to attend your seminar with Flynn and to understand podcasts, because I've never really listened to podcasts. My wife has when she's traveling, but I thought it was intriguing, so I wanted to go, and I just was enthralled by your guys' conversation. But then at the end, you said that one of the things you always ask people is this Mary question: does Mary get in the car or not? And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And I thought everybody knew she did, but again, it's art, so yeah. Maybe she started to get in and said no and slammed the door. Maybe who knows? But it got me thinking. I'm like, well, okay, yeah, she got in the car, but then the next question is, where'd she go? What'd they do? Oh, did they stay together? As we talked about earlier with the for better or for worse in relationships greatly do evolve. Some unfortunately devolve, but hopefully you can grow and mature, and some relationships stay stagnant and relationships healthy or unhealthy. So I started thinking right then in the seminar that, okay, for whatever reason, the first song that popped into my mind was, yeah, they got in the car, but then did they end up as loose ends? Each one noose around the neck with the loose ends. And then after I spoke to you, my mind kept going. I'm like, okay, but then after loose ends, where does it go? Because I think you had mentioned in the thing that it starts at Thunder Road and ends at Moonlight Motel. And I'm like, okay, but there's a big gap there. What else happened in that gap?
Yeah.
I went and did a factor tree based on the old elementary school math stuff, and started looking at all the different ones. And even and it keeps, the more I think about it, I keep adding other new lines and new tangents and new songs. It's by no means complete. And again, because it's art and it's very subjective, everybody can do their own. It's almost like a board. You can make a board game out of it.
Yes.
And how does these two characters, where do they end up? Either together but bitter at each other, but they just don't want to let go. They're comfortable in their bitterness, or do they rise above it all? And there's that line in Tunnel of Love: you have to learn to live with what you can't rise above, which to me speaks a little bit about the compromises. And again, like you're saying, it's 90-10 today, but tomorrow it's 60-40, but it averages the 50-50. But again, I think that's healthy, as you work through those things. Yeah, it was fun for me to do. And like I say, every now and then I'll drive to work and then I'll think of another song I need to add to it. It's like where this thing keeps growing.
Yeah, so I'm going to include this to everyone to see, because I think it's a lot of fun. And yeah, someone who's a game designer, if you want to create our version of Bruce Life, that would be great.
Get some royalties though, you and I.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yes. But you told me all about that, but we haven't got the answer. So in case this is your first episode, thank you for listening. But I end every podcast with the Mary question. Jay Armstrong is an honors English teacher in the Philadelphia area. He's now retired. But when he was teaching, he would give his students the lyrics to Thunder Road. They would talk about it if it was a poem. They would discuss the themes and imagery Bruce covers in the song, and then he would ask his students, does Mary get in the car? So it sounds like you think she does, but she does.
Yes.
And then depending on the path they take, it could be happy, it could be sad,
Right.
it could be hard. Oh,
Yep.
nice.
Yeah. It could go to spare parts and she gets impregnated, but then he bails
Yeah.
because he's changed again. Or maybe it was Thunder Road and he's got the fever.
Yeah.
But then I thought about after the fever, it's okay. But then something happens. And even though, because again, there's always that white hot romance at the beginning and stuff. And over time, it
Yeah.
can cool down. So Thunder Road, she gets in the car. I've got the fever. But now they break up and he slowly realizes what he had and misses, and now he says, I wish I were blind when I see you with the man. Or maybe it goes off the Thunder Road, but something happens and you get that Backstreet 78 where you lied, and
Yes.
it takes a bad turn. But even then, with time, I was thinking with a dotted line, with time, maybe that person looks back and now he sees her with another man, and now he wishes he was blind again, because with time he realizes maybe he was part of it, or maybe it truly was she was not a good person. And that Backstreet 78 goes into When You're Alone, where that line is, that pretty form you've got now, it's not going to last forever. It's not going to carry you. I can't remember the exact line, but
Yeah.
you're going to find out when you're alone, you're alone. And you did this. You did it to us. You did it to yourself.
I love that. Thank you so much. We will do this again. Are you on any social media?
No, sir.
Okay. Good for you.
If somebody wanted to, I can give you my AOL address. It's just my name,
Okay.
TimJulius, Tim Julius at AOL.com.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Thank you, Tim. I'm sure we'll stay in contact. Look forward to having you on again. I appreciate it. Everyone, be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you soon.